Alright, Victorum Gaming fans and SPQR fans, we're back and we got another video for you guys today. This is part 2 of 3 in our little trilogy here covering the scenarios for the Gauls. So this one is called Slaughter at Dawn, and just from the map there you can already tell in contrast to the last one where the Gauls had just a tiny area to deploy. Here they're getting quite a bit, but let's take a look at it here. So warbands as normal, equal sizes, equal denarii. The Gallic player here is the attacker, and then the other player is going to be the defender. And then the defender sets up all their models, and then the Gallic player deploys all their models. Both players roll a die, with the Gallic player adding 2 to the results. The highest player has the first phase. So it's a nice one here again, especially for the Gauls, chance to be the aggressor, potentially. The defender basically gets that smaller deployment area, and again, depending on terrain, that can certainly box them in. And then the Gauls basically get half the table, but again, assuming this is a 4x4, so you kind of have half of it diagonally, but still plenty of real estate to deploy your forces in. And if you've gone with the sort of horde approach of the Gauls, that's going to definitely be pretty intimidating. So the defender is definitely going to need to try and spread out a little bit and get out of their little wedge at the back here and try and figure out a way to basically deal with the incoming Gauls, especially if the Gauls do end up going first. So again, attacker defender is defined, but who goes first is still a dice roll here. Special rules for the scenario: the Gallic player can choose to attack a little earlier in the day if he so wishes, taking advantage of the pre-dawn gloom. So if so, you use the following rules. No unit may perform any kind of attack on an enemy that's more than 12 away at the start of its phase. A unit cannot, for example, move into 12 inches with its first attack and then attack with bows. It must be within 12 at the start to first attack. And at the end of every turn, the attacking player rolls a die. On a 6, dawn breaks and the special rule is no longer used. So basically it gives you a chance to get close. It's pretty cool too, especially just basically eliminating kind of long-range firepower until dawn is gone, basically. And it's somewhat similar to that rule from the Athenian scenario way back that we covered early on. I think it was like a night raid in Athens or something like that. But anyway, so, eliminating basically long-range fire for the first turn, definitely getting up close and personal is one thing there. So a lot of javelin work potentially until that rule breaks. But certainly getting like bows and slings and stuff up close certainly makes those troops a little more vulnerable. But nonetheless, again, if the Gauls have gone with that horde approach and really kind of covered all of that real estate, it's not going to leave any gaps for the enemy to sort of expand into. So they're definitely going to have to be careful how they try to work their way out of the deployment zone here. And, as far as the map design here, again, certainly hope nothing, or not the whole board is all that open. But definitely would be cool to put some sort of little village terrain in there, just make that a little bit easier. And that could be something that the defender can try and flood into and just try to not get overwhelmed from every possible angle right away. So it should require a little bit of work for the Gauls to get at you, basically. But this is definitely one, if you're the Gaul player, you should ideally deploy right up on the edge and just spread out as much as you can, just to eliminate, again, avenues for the defender to try and work their way out of that little corner. But you still have to be cognizant of what they're actually bringing in. If they're bringing, for example, like cavalry that can actually do serious damage, you got to be careful of where they might be deployed, and realize that they can certainly move, and then also potentially deal with some of the lighter units that the Gauls have. So you wouldn't want necessarily them to be rampaging around in the back there. And then on the victory conditions, the Gallic player can claim victory if he can kill or drive off all enemy minions. Keyword minions here, so nothing about heroes. If the enemy warband has no minions, the Gallic player will claim victory if he can kill or drive off at least half the enemy heroes. So if this was like a smaller game, it would be kind of cool too if it was like nothing but enemy heroes, killing half of them. So it could be like an interesting scenario where it's just like a group of heroes, maybe like eliminating like the enemy leadership or something, and then the Gauls are attacking there. So that could be kind of cool, an interesting scenario there. So something like maybe the Gauls kind of attacking like a Roman fort or something like that, and maybe it's just a lot of the higher up officers, or even like something like praetorians, that kind of thing. Could be interesting, but a lot of different scenarios there to work into that. Yeah, and that's basically it. So seemingly then, if that doesn't happen, the other person wins. So again, I don't like it when they don't like just give clear specifics there, even though I mean it's kind of implied, but nonetheless could be made a little bit clearer there. So but basically it's a kill 'em all mission with just some slight variation here. So uh, and basically, again, you as a defender, you're just essentially trying to stay alive and not prevent that happen. And again, it doesn't really provide a turn limit or anything like that here, so you might want to play to a set number of turns and see how long that happens. Because again, eventually, if it's like an attrition kind of thing, the Gauls certainly with their numbers can just keep throwing wave after wave of stuff at you. It doesn't really matter how much they beat you by. It's just they have to kill every last one of your guys, your minions. So you know that eventually will catch up with you. As far as deployment though goes, again, if you're the defender, you want to cautiously work your way out of that corner. Otherwise, you're just going to be boxed in completely. And then the Gauls really can just kind of charge with abandon at you. So if you do have some sort of village or other terrain up on that side of the board, kind of working your way in some defensive positions again. So especially if you can kind of set up behind some walls and stuff like that. Especially also if you are the type of army that doesn't have a lot of like even medium to heavy infantry or cavalry or anything like that. So if you can get set up in some sort of defense, again, the Gauls aren't necessarily known for, again, heavy armor and stuff like that, but they can still field some elite like troops. But really, again, as we've said, it's going to be just a lot of quantity, horde style tactics and stuff coming at you. So, you know, you're going to have to weather that storm over and over again. So, and the size of the game, of course, will also determine a lot of things here too. So if it's a smaller game, it'll be a little bit tougher for the Gauls to necessarily spread all the way across and kind of keep you permanently boxed in. So, but, you know, if this is like in the, if this is like in, you know, approaching 1,000 or more points and stuff like that, that can potentially be tons and tons and tons of Gallic warriors. So definitely a good scenario for the Gauls overall. Defender definitely has a little bit of a rough spot here, but again, it is kind of nice, at least that Defender has a chance of potentially going first. Although if the Dawn rules are in effect, like stuff like that, long range missile fire not being in play, you know, really it's not necessarily bad if the Gauls go first, although I would probably still want to go first as the defender just to, again, work my way out of that deployment zone, try and get, figure out a plan basically to deal with the Gauls. If you have a lot of mobility, you might do something where you're trying to like basically sort of refuse flank and kind of get to one side or the other. And again, it also depends on what the Gauls have where, so you might find or identify a weak spot and try and get yourself going that way. But interesting mission. Again, I would probably clean some things up on the victory condition side, just to spell things out a little bit more. And certainly, again, setting some sort of turn limit would be good too. So, but that can be house ruled, and you know, again, play it first the way it's written and then see what needs maybe some tweaking. So, but overall, fun little scenario, and of course could be adapted for different armies and stuff as well. So hope you guys enjoyed our little look here. Slaughter at Dawn's the second of the 3 Gallic scenarios for SPQR. If you could, drop us a like and a subscribe if you haven't already, and then stay tuned for the next one.